is shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to A Course in Miracles Friday morning. I'm Lisa Natoli, and welcome live streamers. This morning is like so amazing to me. We've got all these people, new faces that have driven very far distances to be here. So I just want to acknowledge that. I'm gonna see how good I do with names. The first I'm going to talk about her is my dear friend Dana Bear, and I'm going to talk about her a little bit later. She is somebody who absolutely was the catalyst for change in my life back when I was 14 years old, and this is 34 years later. And she's back in my life again. She drove from Keene, 2 hours away. So welcome, Dana. We got Kathy Winslow, who's also driven 2 hours away. Yep, we all know Kathy. And Kathy is, I tell this story often. Kathy and I met in Maine. She'd taken a 40-day program. And she said to me, I'm just a housewife. And of course, that doesn't fly in my book. And so I said, oh, really? And it was just this amazing connection just to remind Kathy of who she really is and the light that you are. And so happy you're here. We have Diane. You've driven, I don't know where you've driven from, but you're a very good friend with Sean, also high school friends. So we have big connections here. Welcome. Welcome, Monica. You've driven from far distance out in the galactic universe. And we have Pam, who's driven from Concord, and she's Living in Purpose, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Martine, also in Living in Purpose, and Martine and I met in New York, and she's from Keene, which is amazing, because now these two are connected. And we have Candace and Pete, who have driven the farthest. You guys win the prize from Connecticut, 3.5 hours away. And welcome everyone else that is here. It's just a pleasure to have everyone here. And I'm going to just start with a prayer, and then we'll have some announcements, and then we'll just get started. So just wherever you are, I want you to feel your feet on the floor. I want you to close your eyes, or you can keep them open. It actually doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. And so in this moment, we acknowledge where we are. I ask you to be aware of where your feet are, because often our minds take us away from the space where we are in this moment. And where your feet are is where God is. And that's where you are. So wherever you are in this moment is the perfect spot. And every moment is the perfect spot. And so I simply open us up in the acknowledgement and the recognition of the light that we are and the love of God that surrounds us and goes with us wherever we go. And I pray that we remember this, that in every moment that we have that ability, that power within us to center ourselves and come back into alignment, that we remember the light that we are. And so I give thanks for Unity on the River, that we have a place that we can join together. I give thanks for everyone who is here, and we acknowledge that this is a new beginning. This is a new beginning, and we go forth from this place releasing the past, and we release the present. We release everything from our minds except the light that we are, knowing we have a guide. And this is a place of celebration. Amen. Amen. All right, well, welcome. So I'm just going to just give a couple of announcements. Is the 40-day program is coming up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that also this morning. And who's taken a 40-day program? Most everybody here. Everybody here. Who hasn't taken it? Nobody. Okay. Well, the 40-day program to me is a great catalyst for change, and it starts on Tuesday, September 6th. And even if you've taken it already, it's a great way just to get back into the flow again. You know, it's the beginning of the school year, summer's over, and whatever you are doing that's kind of your continuity in life, like whatever that is, you know, and we all fall back into these old habits again, where we just start being in a routine and we start sleepwalking again. We stop remembering who we are and why we're here. And so it's a great way to discipline yourself, to really discipline yourself to walk away from your old habits, from your routines, and to open your mind up to the space of new possibilities. And you do that for 40 days. And it follows the idea of Jesus walking away from his carpentry business at the age of 30. And he didn't know what was next, but he knew that his old life was over and that he was going to enter into a new space and be committed to his relationship with God. And what he did was, it says that the Holy Spirit brought him there to that space to be tempted. And I love that, because that's the idea that we say, yes, I'm willing to be tempted now. Most people, like, that's the place we avoid. We avoid that place of temptation. We say, I just want to do what I can to make sure that nothing goes off the grid. And now you're calling things to go off the grid. Like, you're saying, okay, I'd like to be able to see the blocks and the obstacles in my mind that are keeping me stuck. And to have that kind of trust requires trust. And that's why I like this group. And it's an online community also, and I welcome the live streamers here. It's a place where you suddenly can see that I am going to have a new experience, and that I am willing to allow my mind to be dismantled. And, you know, I posted this thing on Facebook last night with you in mind, Diane, mostly, as I posted about, I made raw vegan brownies last night. And I was just thinking about how, good morning, how Linda had said, you know, if more of us can just remember to bring food when we're inspired to do so, because we don't have a hospitality schedule anymore. And I remember, you know, you guys all know my love of cake. And so I used to just say, come, it's going to be fun, cake, coffee, come, it's awesome. And Diane was making a joke one day with me to say, yeah, you like, you know, get us into the room, you entice us into the room with cake and coffee and celebration. And little do we know that as soon as we walk into the door, what we've really walked into is the complete dismantling of your entire thought system. And so, and once you walk through the door, that's it. That's it. There's no going back for you, and so sorry. But this is what we're all waiting for. Like, we're all waiting for this place where we can say, okay, I'm not going to hold on to the way I've been. I want to show up in the world in a new way. And so welcome to the dismantling of your entire thought system. And what I'd like to do now is ask everyone to rise from your seats. And what we do here is we just take a space to acknowledge everyone. There's a line in A Course in Miracles in the text that says, when you acknowledge the light in your brother, you are remembering it for everyone. So this is a time to greet one another with a smile, a namaste, a good morning. Somebody else help. We'll do two if you want.
Are these yours?
Two space.
All day.
Those are
Are you
mine are
coming
in
this year?
the box.
Oh,
These must be yours.
You too. Oops. We're off.
Back on.
Back on. Okay, welcome back. I'd like to have, Bill doesn't know I'm going to call him up, but Bill, do you want to do a little meditation for us?
Sure.
The light has come. This is Bill, everyone.
Let me take my live streaming thing off. Turn
Okay.
You off.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to invite everyone to really pause the busy mind and the busy person, the personal self-identity. Just press the pause button. Everybody knows what that looks like, those two marks. Press that thing in your head, in your mind. Tell the mind to pause. And as we do this, we really acknowledge our self, the self that's eternal and present. This timeless self, which is always aware, always present. It's what the stillness is, the still, quiet place of God. This is what God is. God is always watching. God is always aware. And that is you. That is me. We are that. We only need to pause and acknowledge it to be lifted into this space of eternal being. Right here. Body still sits in the chair. Time still seems to happen, but this place of presence, this is our true identity. This is the timelessness, the timeless self that never dies, never sleeps. It's always present. It's in the background. Just waiting for us to notice it when we're quiet. Everything rises in front of this. So just be in this beautiful space of abiding in what you are. So spacious. You go beyond the sun and moon and stars and beyond all galaxies. There's no end to what this self that you are is. And this is where Source is. This is the self. And I invite you to come back to this place. Any time, any moment where you just feel that you want to plug into what your true identity is, just come back to this place. You can come back to this place any time. You don't even have to close your eyes. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You only need to notice that you are this quiet space that's watching the behavior of the person. You are this quiet space that is aware, always, of presence. And within this space is all the power, all the glory, and the perfect peace whenever you want it. Just press pause. Just press the pause button and come here. Even in the busy schedule that you might have, just in your mind, just acknowledge the truth that you are, the light, press the pause, check in, and then bring the light back with you. And move around from there. We thank you, Father. Thank you, universe, all that is, that we have this connection with what we are in truth, the self, as God created us. And we acknowledge that. As we come back into the room, into the experience of this Course in Miracles Friday group, we are now plugged into what our true identity is as the self. And so it is. Amen. Okay, welcome back. Lisa Natoli.
Hey,
Let me turn you back on.
I'm on. Turn me on. We are now plugged in. And just so grateful for joining. Jesus in A Course in Miracles says, oh, hi, Shirley the Presence, just dropped in from out of nowhere. Jesus says that healing is joining. And it's not physical joining that he's talking about. He's talking about the joining that we do when we come into that space that Bill was just describing. And then it's amazing when we can take that place and all of a sudden we look around and there's others that are reflections of our pure one self that we are. We join in this space. So what I want to do is today's talk is inspired by my friend Max. And many of you who know me know that Max is a good friend of mine. He's from Australia. We met many years ago in Wisconsin. And he and I have done a radio show for many years called The Max and Lisa Show. And I often now interview him on Unity Online Radio. I have a weekly radio show that airs on Friday. And Bill has one that airs on Friday also. And Max and I had a show that's going to air today at 3 o'clock, and I want to talk about that show here this morning. And the title of the show is You Don't Have to Wait to Get to Dementia to Be Happy. Training your mind to forget all of your problems and let go all of your grievances. And so what Max was telling me is that about 3 weeks ago, his mother came for a visit, and she's 90 and a half. Max calls her 90 and a half because Max is 4 and a half, and he just loves his mom. His mom he describes her as having a difficult life. You know, she was born in 1926 in Italy. She went through the war. There was not a lot of money, not a lot of food. And like most people's lives, it's one of struggle. It is just, we think that's normal. We just think like, okay, that's just normal to have problems. It's normal to feel afraid. And A Course in Miracles is telling us that's not normal. Your normal state is one of joy and happiness and peace. And so Max's mother lives with Max's other brother, Morris, and comes for visits. And so she came for a visit 3 weeks ago, and on the first night that she was with Max, she fell. And somehow in the fall, she has developed dementia. Like maybe it was coming on, and she knows who the family is. And they took her to the hospital, and she's got a fractured hip from the fall, needed to have hip replacement surgery. And he was telling me on the show how his mother's not disturbed by this occurrence. Like she's so happy. She's just in the hospital and she can't remember anything. She can't remember all of her problems. She can't remember all these years of grievances. And Max just said, and he says, you know, you don't have to wait to get dementia to be happy. And I thought, well, that's that's a good one. And this morning I got an email from someone, so I do just want to acknowledge another part of this. You know, somebody saw my post on Facebook and said, you know, your post pushed a button in me. And my father had dementia and he was not happy. And I know a lot of people who have dementia and they're not happy. And that made me just remember, it's like this with everything. It is just like this with everything. You hear people who get diagnosed with cancer and they spring alive. It's like the wake-up call that they need to really see like how short our time is and what's important and what are the priorities. And you know, you're told you have a week to live or 6 months to live, and it sort of rearranges everything for you. And other people get told they have cancer, and suddenly it's just a state of depression and sadness and anger and grievances. And so it's always going to be a choice. And what I wanted to do today is I want to look at the workbook lesson from A Course in Miracles. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And so that's what I want to do today. I want to use this space as a new beginning for all of us, where we can have an opportunity and an invitation to let go of everything. You don't have to get cancer. You don't have to get dementia to have this experience happen. And you see the scientists are already beginning to talk a lot about what they've already proven, that everything in our life is just neural pathways. It's like in the true sense, none of even that's not real. Like in the true sense, there's no brain, there's no thoughts, there's no body. But here in this time-space illusion, that they've already proven that your thoughts create your reality. That the way you think is only throwing off a mirror projection of your own thoughts, and you think it's solid. It's just a hologram. Holographic imagery of your own past thinking about separation. What did you say to me, Bonnie, this morning in the coffee maker? You said, it was brilliant. And it was so brilliant, I've forgotten what it was.
We talked about a few things, the past thoughts. We talked about, seeing that what I'm seeing now is my past thoughts. So what I'm thinking now is going to show up later, but then
exactly. That was it. That was it. So what we were talking about this morning before we began is how many people on a spiritual path, they get that first bit that says, okay, I'm only looking at myself. That the people, and of course that first idea is taken on a step of faith. That the person I see out there is actually not really out there. I put them there with my thinking. They're just a reflection. And so many people who have a spiritual background are playing with that idea. They're saying, okay, maybe that's true. What if? What if really the people I see out there are just showing me a mirror of myself? And the sticking point on that one is that some people never move beyond that. And I always use Jesus as the example on the cross. So Jesus knew who he was, that he knew exactly who he was. And when they put him on the cross, they were attacking and crucifying him. And he didn't look down and say, oh, I must not be awake yet because my dream projections are still attacking me, right? He knew. He said, okay, wow, they don't know who they are. Forgive them, Father. They don't know who they are. So he wasn't no longer saying, oh, I must not be awake because I now see other people still attacking me. He knew who he was. And all he did was be the love that he was. And so what Bonnie and I were talking about was that's a great way to show up in life from now on, that you're only looking at the past. Whenever you're with a person and they're being crazy or they're just saying something hateful, that you're saying, okay, this is lesson 7. I see only the past. I see only the past in this person. And I'm now coming from this place, and this is the collapse of time that Jesus talks about in the Course in Miracles. You remember the truth for the both of you. That you remember the light that you are. and that's what I was reading in the course last night in the text. It says, when you see the light in your brother, you are remembering it for everyone, because there's only one mind. One mind that we share. And so when that one mind, I mean, think about that. Your mind contains every mind. All the minds in all the world is in your mind. Isn't that amazing? So you can reach every single person, past, present, future, unborn, in other countries that you don't know about, all the violence that's going on in the world and you don't know what to do about it. It's in your mind.
And the Father.
Yes? What?
And the Father.
Yes. Thank you. And so now we come to this space where we say, okay, wow, let that be my dedication from now on. Yes, Irene?
You know, that psychologically, the whole idea, I was just thinking when you were saying that, you know, as a therapist, you learn that people, if you grew up in an alcoholic family with violence or abuse or whatever, your chances of marrying somebody who is also alcoholic or violent are just astronomical,
Yep.
right? And so you can be saying to yourself, I'm not going there. So maybe dad was a violent alcoholic and he was a plumber, right? So you go to college and you meet somebody who's a college professor and that's who you marry. But then you get into the relationships and, oh, look, here's dad again, alcoholic, abusive, or whatever. So I mean, it manifests over and over and over again. Research has proven it.
Yep.
So I just made that like, aha, oh,
Yep.
it's the mind.
Yep.
You know, more in the metaphysical way that you brought that to you. I
Yep.
mean, obviously, in the psychological world, you have brought that to you because you need to heal it. You need
Yep.
to get over that you deserve that, or that has to be real, or whatever you have to get over. You
Yep.
have to get over it.
Yep, exactly. And so the mind training of A Course in Miracles makes you aware of the pattern. That's the mind training. That's the psychology of A Course in Miracles. It makes you aware of this pattern that keeps playing itself out. Like, oh, wow, I married the same guy I married the last time, and I'm having the same friends, and I'm having the same, so I've moved across the other side of the world, and wow, the same people but different bodies. How did that happen? And so you begin to say, oh, whoa, like, okay, I see the pattern, and then you break the pattern. And what Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles, you can't do it by yourself. You need the Holy Spirit. You need that higher part of yourself. And I'm going to talk about you, Dana, right now. This is such a gift that you're in this room and that you're in my life, because what I want to talk about just briefly before I get into the lesson is often in a moment something will show up in your life that will just turn everything around for you. Like, because you want it, you've asked for it silently in your heart. And so this is a book I wrote, Gorgeous for God. This is blog posts that I wrote in 2004 as I was going through my own awakening. And so I talk about just how my life was when I grew up. You know, I was always a happy little child. And in the third grade, I started to go deaf. And who knows? And what I look back at, and of course I'm only going to construct a story about it, and I'm going to be wrong. But what it feels like is that up until the third grade, I was just naturally just happy, bright and happy and joyful. And in the school setting, the teachers were always saying, now, Lisa, give the other kids a chance. And, okay, we know you know the answer. And I wasn't trying to be, you know, the best. It was just like that. Your mind as a child is naturally fast and curious. And I started to notice around that age that the other kids didn't like me either. That they were saying, oh, Lisa's the teacher's pet. And so the mind starts to develop habits to be liked and loved and appreciated. And so I made a conscious or possibly even unconscious decision to blend in. That I'm just going to not do well anymore. I'm not going to raise my hand anymore. I'm just going to be average. And that went on. And I tried to be popular. Like I tried to look at the other girls in our school and I tried to be like them. And this is just what happens, you know? It's just like you either say I don't care about that or you do care about it. But see, I never was myself. So in the 9th grade, a miracle occurred. A girl named Dana showed up from California. She was smart and beautiful, a shining bright star, and she did not care about blending in. I might cry. She could not be average if she tried. She got perfect grades. She was creative, happy, and always laughing. She wore clothes that were outlandish and bright. And she had tons of friends. Everyone loved her. But what I noticed is that none of that mattered to her. She didn't care if anyone liked her. She was simply being herself. This is when the shift began to occur for me, back to my natural, original state of being perfect as God created me. I thank you, Dana. I started being myself, outgoing, funny, enthusiastic, and smart, not caring about anyone's opinion, and suddenly I was truly happy again. And so I just wanted to say that often something will show up in your life that'll be the turning point for you. Like when you're asking for it, and you're alert enough to recognize it. Like I wasn't on a spiritual path back then, but it's like you see something in another person and you recognize that you don't have to be the way you've been all this time. That you can make a choice. That you can, and I just at that moment, I let go of trying to be popular. I just said, I don't care about that anymore. All I care about is being myself. And so, what I wanted to do today is, I want us to look at this idea of having a problem. So is there anyone here who has a problem? Who doesn't have a problem? Anybody? Okay, good. This will be a good class then. Okay. Because A Course in Miracles, it's always practical. So again, the topic of this morning is you don't have to wait to get dementia to be happy. So I want to use this moment as the moment for you when you can forget all your problems. That you can really recognize that you don't have to hang on to anything. You walk through those doors with some baggage. All of us did. We walked through those doors and we brought the sequence of time and space with us. That we have an identity, we have a past, we have a present, we have an idea of even what we think the future is going to be. Like I already have an idea of where I think I'm going to go to lunch. Or where I'm going to, seriously though, don't we all? Like we all have an idea that this class is going to end in 40 minutes. Like we sequence time in this way. Like we think we know where we're going next. But what if you were released from all of that? Like what if you had an experience where the neural pathways were suddenly snipped? That's what dementia is. Dementia is that the brain's not working in that normal function anymore, and you can't remember. You can't. And what Max said to me was that his mother's not suffering from that. And then I just love that guy so much, but he has been posting photos of his mom on Facebook, and she's just happy, and he says everyone in the hospital loves her. She's just like kind and sweet and gentle, and so he's posting all these pictures of her just eating, sipping this drink out of a straw, and all of a sudden there's a photo of her in a hospital bed, and you can tell like something dramatic just must have happened. And Max and his girlfriend Leah are on both sides of the bed, and they're all just happy. They're all just laughing and smiling, and a whole bunch of people on Facebook were like, oh my God, how's your mother? Is she okay? Like everyone falls into that trap of worrying. And Max responds back, she's great. And then she found, since the show, which we taped a week ago and it will air today, since the show, she got dementia, she broke her hip, and now she just found out 3 days ago that she has lung cancer. Both of her lungs have cancer. And so when Max told me this, he says, yeah, it's like the doctor called me in and told me my mom has lung cancer. And what's his response? The same as always, joy and peace. Just joy and peace for this experience of just being present with this, all that is unfolding. And so he responded to someone on Facebook, she's great. She's got lung cancer and just had hip replacement surgery. And I'm like, okay. Like she's great. And last night, Bill and I were on Skype with Max talking, and Bill said something like, well, I don't know how you said it, but it was something like, how come she didn't disappear in the experience? And I said she did. Like, you have these experiences where your entire self-identity disappears. Does that make sense to everybody? Where that sorrowful, sad, angry, depressed, and I can only speak with authority on this subject because I was depressed and sad and angry for all those years, and an addict, and you know, some people just have a spontaneous awakening. Like, I wasn't one of those people. I was somebody who had this experience because I did the mind training of A Course in Miracles. And what I love about the Course in Miracles is that it's available to everyone. Like, some people say, well, they're just lucky. They just had a death experience, they're lucky. And I used to think that way. Like, I wanted to have a death experience. How come I don't get to have a death experience? How come I don't have angels show up in my living room? And you see these stories, right? You see these stories of people who get cancer and then they're healed. I wanted to get cancer and be healed. And then I thought, okay, that's crazy. Like, what I really wanted was just to wake up. And so I went on faith. And there's 365 lessons, workbook lessons in this book. And they're a way to systematically train your mind to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. And it's, my experience is that doing this work brings in a light. It brings a light into your mind, and the light is the thing that begins to snip those neural pathways and dissolve all those thought patterns. And so, lesson 79, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. So, a problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved, yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone in the world seems to have his own special problems, yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is accepted. So you have to accept this. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about that problem that you raised your hand on, whatever that was, or problems. So you have a problem of finances or health issue, or there's someone in your life that's bothering you, or whatever the problem is. And we're going to recognize the real problem. The problem that you're thinking about in its details is only a covering to keep you distracted from seeing the real problem. And the real problem is that you have forgotten who you are. That's the real problem, that you have forgotten the light that you are. It's the problem of separation. And until that problem is solved, you're going to keep manifesting forms of what seems like specific and individual problems. And what the mind does, the ego mind, is try to solve the problem. But it never actually stands still long enough to just say, okay, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And Jesus says you will have only one problem. One problem, one solution. Problem of separation, it's already been solved. You're whole and perfect. And then watch the mind scramble now. Say, yeah, but you don't know my problems. And so it says, they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? So the reason I loved that conversation with you this morning, Bonnie, is because what if you could acknowledge and accept that all the things that you think you see in your life are actually just remnants of something that's already over? Right? It's already over. Your problem, your health problem, your money problem, your relationship problem, whatever it is, it's already over. And so the training now is to be in the middle of the form with your mind lit in the truth. And what Bonnie said is that you then will get the effects of your new way of thinking in the future. I mean, you're gonna receive them now, but the speed by which they start to manifest in your life. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Does that not make sense to anybody here? So and this is what Myrtle Fillmore, we're in a Unity church right now. So Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity movement, found out she had tuberculosis and malaria in like 1886 and told 6 months to live. And she was in a tremendous amount of pain, and she heard someone say, "You're a child of God, you can't be sick." And her mind just went, "Yep, that's true. That's true." And that's what I want for you in this room today, that someone here can accept this for yourself, to say, yes, that's true, I'm the light of the world. And the form that seems to be manifesting my life, that is not who I am. And I'm not paying attention to that anymore. And so what happened next, why I love her story so much, and I tell it often, she kept having the problem for 2 more years. But that didn't stop her from starting prayer groups and affirming the truth in every moment. So sometimes, some people are spontaneously healed, and some people it won't be healed ever. But you, in the middle of the experience, are now having a different experience. That you are now showing up. So I don't want anyone to get trapped in thinking, well, I'll do that and then my problem in the form will be solved. No, your problem is solved in the form this instant. This instant that you can acknowledge, I have everything. I am in total abundance. God is with me. I have a guide. And I feel the most important part of the mind training is taking the moment of stillness to get quiet and ask within for guidance. To me, and that's my stumbling block. This is the place where I forget still. I still forget to ask. Yes.
Jesus even had to remind Blessed Mother Mary on the way to the cross. He said, "Watch me make all things new."
Mm-hmm.
Or Mother, watch me make all things new.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, it took him 3 days, but
Yep.
you know, I mean,
Yep, exactly. Last night in the kitchen, Bill just said, because I know I'm learning the Bible more, and Bill said in the kitchen, "Behold," and I knew what comes next. I knew, like as soon as he said "behold," that's all he said. I said, "I make all things new," and it's like that great reminder. Behold, yes, I make all things new. Yes, Bill.
I was going to say there's a real quick shift when you're in the mind training of doing the work that you're describing, where you see all things as illusion, or you see that all of these things are just memories of the past. There's a real quick shift where the intellect, where the mind wants to grab that thought and say, "No way." And the only way that you can actually acknowledge that is by acknowledging it from that still place that you just described. The mind is going to be very fast to grab every thought and turn it into an intellectual idea or a concept and And then it's no longer dispelling the illusion.
Yep.
You're no longer looking at it from within. You're looking at it from without.
Yep.
And that's a real fast, it's almost like a nanosecond experience that we have. And that's why the Course, I feel the Course is really clear when it says you have to be vigilant to do this work.
Yep.
This mindset.
I love it. Yeah, because one of the things is like the practical nature of this work. So you're not just sprouting positive affirmations, and that's why I love A Course in Miracles so much. And I love Byron Katie, and I was just thinking of you this morning, Nancy. Nancy gave me, like, probably my favorite book right now, besides A Course in Miracles, is 1,000 Names for Joy from Byron Katie. And she gave that to Bill and I for our wedding a couple years ago, and I promptly confiscated it as mine. And I still read that book. I just picked it up off the shelf again. And Byron Katie, for those of you who don't know her, she has a teaching, Loving What Is, and she has what's called the work. And the work is a worksheet where you question the reality of your thoughts. Well, that's from lesson 41 in A Course in Miracles. Is that one thing you have not yet done is question the reality of the problem. It's the entire psychotherapy handbook in the back of A Course in Miracles that you need to look at the problem. You can't just say, oh, I'm whole and perfect. No, you have to specifically look at the thing that's a grievance in your mind, or the sickness, or the money problem, or I love actually that my greatest gift is hearing. Like, I'm almost completely deaf without hearing aids, but that's actually my gift. And I hear people. When I'm with someone, I'm listening like a hawk to their language. And I listen to my own language. And I listen to the thoughts that I'm having during the day. I'm training my mind in a systematic way to see what I'm doing. And then you discipline yourself to see it differently. So in whatever situation you think you're in, this is all Jesus says in the Course, you think you have a problem. It only seems like you have a problem one moment. But you're coming to a place where you can say, because everyone, when they have a problem, they want it to be different, right? If they were acting differently, I could be at peace again. Or if I had more money, all would be well. Or if I only, could just figure out how to change my circumstances, and then I wouldn't have to live in this place, or I wouldn't have to be doing these things I don't want to do. I could quit my job, and I could do something cool. But what mind training is asking us to do is to be present in the place where you think you are. You're not actually there, you just think you're there. And just look at your thoughts. What is actually happening in the moment? And then be determined to shift, to see it with Christ's vision. Let me find the gift in this thing. Let me remember the truth. Let me see the light. Irene?
Just a quickie. I think it was Bill that said it when I first started coming to this meeting. I first met you and Bill. But I'm sure it's been said over and over again. The training wheels that I use to start to change focus is just saying to myself, whenever I'm agitated or upset or whatever, let me see this differently. Jesus, let me see this differently. That I even just open up that there's a possibility, just a slim one, that I could not be right. Just let me see this differently. And that has just opened up worlds for me.
Exactly.
Because before I used to think, oh, I've got to get holy about this. Fine, I forgive you. That wasn't working.
Yeah, right. No, that doesn't work.
Because it was still based in the way I was looking at it. But that I'm pretty sure it was Bill that said it. And that was a big, huge there's some training wheels. I can ride with that on. Because it's just, then I start being in curiosity about what else might this be.
Yep. Exactly.
Eckhart Tolle found it on a park bench. Buddha found it under a tree.
Yep.
Jesus found it in the desert. And it takes 40 days.
Yep. Yeah, and you find it in this moment. Yes, Maggie?
Yeah, I was just watching rewatching the movie The Beautiful Mind.
Oh, I like that movie, yeah.
And it was funny, it was so clear to me, because there's a point in the movie that he decided he wasn't going to let it take over his life. And there was 3 people in his mind that he thought that he kept coming over to see him. And he went and said goodbye to them. No, they never disappeared for him because he was
Yep,
schizophrenic.
exactly.
But he decided, I
Yep.
can see you.
Yep.
You were there, but I'm no longer going to relate to you. And he took his mind back.
Yep.
So it was just powerful to
Yep.
see.
Yeah, and that's it. That's it. Those in Beautiful Mind, it's it's a scene where these people are like just constantly giving him grief, and he made that decision. Like, who knows how it comes to you that you see you don't have to be affected by the things happening in your life. And the people never disappeared from his life. They still were hovering sort of around, but he wasn't giving them any attention anymore. Therefore, they weren't bothering him anymore. So the problem actually disappeared, but they're still there. And I think the stumbling block for many people is you think, well, I'm doing A Course in Miracles, I've dedicated my life to God, I'm here just to be in service. Why are still things happening to me? Like, why am I still having difficulties and problems? And because that's the work. You're here as the light in the world to stand in that place of total discomfort in every moment and just allow your mind to be the thing that heals it for everyone. So now you see your role and your purpose is different, where you're not trying to just get through the difficult stuff so that you can just have a happy life. And you're here as the light of the world. And so now every moment it's just like, oh, okay, wow, everything's happening. Like I was in the Byron Katie book, she just makes me laugh so hard because she went blind. She had a tumorous mole on a cancerous mole on her face, huge thing, and it didn't bother her at all, not at all. And because she'd already had this experience, I'm not my body. I'm not. She calls it she. She doesn't even call it Katie. But she says, I'll call myself Katie for, simplicity purposes, but I'm not Katie. But what she said was when she had the cancerous mole on her face, she was always amused by other people's reactions to it because it didn't bother her, but everybody else was bothered by it. And she said that people would try to talk to her and not look at it. They'd look away. And she just felt this internal joy. And finally she just had it removed. It didn't matter. And she talks in that book about how every moment is the fullness of all that is. So she's chopping vegetables, and she can't see very well. She's at the stage where she can only see colors, and she can feel textures. And she's like, the joy of the colors and the joy of the chopping. Oh, the phone rings. I wonder who it is. And she starts to go towards the phone, but she still is recognizing maybe she won't make it to the phone. I wonder what will happen next. And then she trips and she falls on the way to the phone. And she's in the delight and the joy of falling. Oh, I guess I needed to just take a rest. So now she's on the floor and she feels the coolness of the floor. She feels her spine against the floor. And so it's every single moment is just for her the fullness of the experience. It doesn't go any further than that. And she tells a story. She was held up at gunpoint with a guy who's putting a gun in her stomach. And she didn't feel any fear. She felt bad for him that he was going to suffer. She felt like he's going to suffer for this. Like somebody who's so misaligned from who they are that they're going to kill someone. But she didn't tell him that. In that moment, she just says, please don't shoot me. That's all she said. Please don't shoot me. And he says, I have to. And in the moment, she was so present, she says, oh, so maybe this is how it ends. Like maybe is this how the story goes? Like isn't that amazing?
Now we know the ending.
Like to be in that kind of experience where it's like, oh, interesting. Wow, a guy with a gun in my stomach. And he didn't shoot her. And she was grateful for that because she didn't want him to suffer.
I was reading in the Course of Love this week, and it said that we always take heaven with us. It's never not with us.
Yep.
We just think it's not,
Yep.
or there's something's happened, but it's always with us.
Yep, exactly. And it does take, like, for everyone it's going to unfold differently. Like for me, it took years to come to a place. It was a fall off the mark, get back in the center, fall off the mark, get back in the center, and then the time kept getting shorter and shorter, like of my suffering. That's how it happened for me. And now it's just like a present awareness of who I am, and a present awareness of who you are. And so I wanted to finish this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's these two lessons, and perhaps this week you can look at them. It's lesson 79 and lesson 80. They go hand in hand. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. So if you have problems and you're ready to have them be solved, I invite you to look at these lessons this week. And it says, so it's what I was expressing earlier is that you thinking about the problem is actually a veil covering your awareness of really looking at what the real problem is. So all your searching on the internet for the solution and you going outside of yourself to other people to talk about the problem, this is just a veil so that you don't actually look at the problem. And so he describes it in here. He says, all this complexity, the thinking about the problem, is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem. I want you to recognize the problem this week. It's the problem of separation, that you think you're alone. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. So I want you to think about that. The problem of money, you think you're alone, right? You think it's up to you to make your own money and support yourself. The problem of health, you're a body. You're alone then. You've forgotten that you're spirit. The problem of your grievances with another person, it's a problem of separation. I'm guaranteeing you, every single problem, you could tell me all of them right now. And there's an underlying constancy in all of them. That you have forgotten who you are. And so it says, and so there's practice periods in here. In our longer practice periods today, we will ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. So this is what I was saying earlier. In my mind, the most important practice is the discipline to still yourself, like Bill was saying, the pause, to ask. To me, if anybody said to me, what do you think is like the most important thing? It's that you have the discipline to stop in the moment, be still, acknowledge you have a guide, and ask within. Just that's it. That ask within. Okay, show me what I need to see. What am I not seeing here? We will ask what the problem is. So it's not, you see, it's not putting a positive affirmation on it. It's saying we're going to ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. We will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of the many different kinds of problems we think we have. You see, we think we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer. We will be told. And it will always come to you, always. Ask and receive. And it will come to you in a form that you haven't even thought about yet. It's like with Dana coming into our high school. God sent her from California because I asked.
And
right?
It might happen, it will happen.
And it did happen. because everything's already passed. So we're just in the play of an unfolding of what's already over. And so it says, the exercises for today will be successful to the extent to which you do not insist on defining the problem. That's important. So we want to define the problem. I have a health problem, and this is what it looks like, and here's its past history, and let me tell you about what the doctor said, and let me tell you about what I think it is, and let me tell you what Google says it is, and this is what's happening here, and it's been going on for a month, and it's so your success depends on you not insisting on defining the problem. Perhaps you will not succeed in letting all your preconceived notions go, but that is not necessary. And here it is. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of your version of what your problems are. That's Byron Katie. You see that? Byron Katie. It's all the same. Just question the story. Let me question, like some of those stories on those videos. I mean, I watch Byron Katie because she's so funny. Like, have you guys know her? Like, somebody will say, well, my husband's sleeping with another woman and I'm upset. Is that true? Yes, he's definitely sleeping with someone else. And then she'll have, okay, let's turn it around. And then what she wants you to do, and this is what Jesus is doing in the Course, she wants to hear you tell the story about it. She wants to hear, so that she can know the blocks and the obstacles that are in your mind. So now you start doing the work. Like, you start really seeing, like, what is my story around my husband sleeping with another woman in the case of that woman? Like, that bitch and that. And then what she says is, so now turn it around. Oh, I'm a bitch. Oh, I'm, whatever language you're using, it's a thought that you're holding in your own mind.
I actually went up on the stage with Byron Katie and did the work.
Oh yeah, you were out there in California. Yep.
And she just blew me open.
Yep.
Because that, what you just said, she made me read the thing, and she brought me to a place my mind could not go.
Yep.
And she's like, read it again.
Yep.
Now read it. I want my daughter to be beaten. And my mind couldn't even go there. And she goes, yes, absolutely. I want her to love herself. No. You want her to have the opportunity to hate herself. Who are you? Who do you think you are? That's what she kept saying to me. Do you think you're God? Do you think you know? You don't know her path. Maybe she's supposed to be a domestic violence counselor.
Yep.
What happened to you when you walked into AA 27 years ago? What if someone said, don't go in there, you'll shame this family? Who would you be today? Who
Exactly.
Would you because of you hated yourself, and your mother had to watch you hate yourself till you were done.
Yep.
And I was like, wow.
Yep.
And that helped me. And she said, if you can't watch it, honey, step away from it. That's called a boundary.
Yep.
And I was able to step away from it.
Yep. And I think that's important too. Like, so when you realize you're not here to fix anybody else, you're not here. Everybody's on their own path, and it's not up to us to determine like what healing is. That we're here just to remember the truth. That's it. That's all Jesus is asking us, his miracle workers, which is what you are, to remember. In every situation, you remember, I am the light of the world. Lesson 61. That is my only function. That is why I am here. That's it. End of story. And then to see how the mind is like, yeah, but I need to help other people because they're all suffering. No.
Or you birthed them.
What?
Or you birthed them.
So you birthed them, right?
That makes it real tough.
We're almost at the end of our time here. So I'm just going to tie up and then we can open up with some comments. Our efforts are only directed towards recognizing there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition are all problems resolved. In this recognition there is peace. Do not be deceived by the form of the problem today. Whatever difficulty seems to arise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is If possible, close your eyes for a moment and ask what it is. You will be heard and you will be answered. Amen. So, would anyone like to share anything? Would you, Dana, like to share anything?
No, I don't think so. But if
And when
I want to share something, I will.
And that's what I love about her. She's always herself. Her no's are no, her yeses are yes. Anybody? Yes.
This week, Trinity's dad has dementia.
Yep.
A form of dementia. And this week, his mom was saying how when she asks him what he's thinking about, he says nothing.
Yep.
And I said, that's the atonement.
Yep.
That's what we're trying, seriously, that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
achieve. That's what I told her. I said, that's the atonement.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's, and he's
Yeah.
got it. He's there. He's not thinking
Yep.
about anything.
Yep, exactly. And that's like what Max keeps saying to me the whole week since all of this happened is forgiveness is forgetting. He keeps saying that to me. He goes, forgiveness is forgetting. Where you just forget. You just forget that that person did that thing to you, or you forget like your whole story. Forgiveness is forgetting. And you have the power within you in this moment to just push that delete button. You know, Bill's talking about the pause button. Let's also include the delete button, where we can say like, do you want to remain stuck in a circle doing what you're doing? Or would you like new things to happen? That's our choice.
And not just that one problem, the whole file folder.
Yeah, exactly.
Delete.
Yeah, exactly. And then watch yourself when the mind picks up again, like when it picks up that thread. Monica?
I was going to say that I inspire Katie work all the time. Like it becomes a, becomes a that I consciously do. And it's just, is it true? You know, I hear myself tell myself something and it's causing me pain. Yeah. It's so simple. It's like, is it true?
Yeah.
And then I have to look at it. Well, I think so. Okay, so I had a thought that I'd hurt my son. You know, I went through a custody battle and lost custody and this whole story, but I thought for years, this is coming to me now, I guess this is like 14 years, I've been thinking I hurt him. And then I was like, oh my God, I still think I hurt him. And I was thinking, okay, so how do you react? Guilt, pain, suffering, you know, I feel it every time I see him. Finally, it was like, well, who would you be without that thought?
Yep.
And I really saw it. It was like, I don't have to continue to think that thought.
Yes.
Like in a half an hour, it was gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was so, like, I was sobbing for a half an hour. Like,
Yep.
oh, I've been doing this to myself. It's like, phew,
Yep.
you know? That's the nature of our mind. It's
Yep.
constantly just attacking the thoughts that are,
Yep.
it's extraordinary.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is the nature of our minds. That's like that's the habitual routine response to think about problems, to attack ourselves with guilt, to try to find solutions, to wish the other person would change. And you begin to see like, no, let me question the reality of the story. Hold on, I saw you had a hand up?
Yeah.
Yep.
So while you were talking, I noticed you moved forward at the right time, you know, like when you said, problem solved in form in this instant. And then I saw the pictures up there and I said, well, you know, two-dimensional pictures are how we live our life, about how we think. And then when we go out to three-dimensional, then, you know, we can look at all the texture of it, you know, be curious.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I always love five-dimensional. Like, why don't we go to five-dimension? Like, fifth dimension is like dogs. Like, if you look at, like, they've talked about, like, the reason we love dogs and cats, they're so healing, is because they are fifth dimension. They're just pure love. Pure love. They love everyone. They have no, true, right?
Yeah.
And so I've heard there's studies that say, like, if you're sick, you should get, like, touch a dog. Like, it's like a healing thing because you enter into the dimension. And this is what Jesus says about us, the miracle workers. Like, you're holding the space when you're with someone. So you're remembering, I mean, fifth dimension, let's go even like beyond. So when you're with someone, you're remembering like, okay, wow, I'm in the space of no space. all love. And you, now in that space where we are together, you just boom, you land right in there with me. And now you carry it with you wherever you go. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's not a big deal. You know, you don't have to say a word. You don't even have to be near somebody. The moment you think of someone in your mind, they're in your space. So that's where you now remember the light you are, and boom, they're in the space with you, and they are in the other side of the world, and they don't know what just happened.
That's what
Right.
Jesus calls the neighbor. God, self, and neighbor hold love for those three.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's whoever enters your mind is your
Yep.
neighbor at that point.
Exactly. And this is healing. That's how healing is accomplished. So we're at the end of our time, so I thank you for being here. And we're going to join in a circle, so if everyone can rise, we'll join in a closing prayer. I love you, live streamers. I think we have Latanya in Alabama, Svava in Denmark, Benjamin in France, Lee in England. Who else is on there? I'm sure there's more. Sean Marie in Dallas.
Becky might be watching.
Your mom.
Becky.
My mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
My mom. Yeah, she's here in New Hampshire. Let's see. I'm gonna do a shout out for Laura. You want to pray?
Okay. Take a deep breath, everybody. Say the word love. Pull it into your heart. Dear God, that's all we are. You bring us here to be with all this love, all this energy, to remember who we are, what we are. We are so grateful that we have this gift to give out to others, to see for ourselves, to learn with each other. I thank you for the teachers you put in my life, because they are you, teaching me that there is nothing but you, no separation, nothing but the love and the peace and the joy, which is our right with you. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And for those of you who are new here, we love having you here. And we want to write down your email address if you'd like to be on our mailing list. It's different than our Teachers of God mailing list. It's just for this group of what's going on, who the teachers are for the week. And if you'd like to give a donation, we have a donation box in the back. It supports us paying for the space, just pays for the work that the foundation is doing for the camera and all that kind of stuff. And we appreciate your generosity. And we do a prayer around abundance. I don't know, for those of you who are new, it's a unity prayer. And we're just going to, those of us who do know it, will lead in. So thinking about who you are, and remembering that we're getting into the flow of giving, like just allowing this abundance to flow out. And we say together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you.
That was awesome. So good. I was so scared when you were asking me.
Peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in the peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining